Welcome to 21st Sports 2015 Season Preview for the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to go over the roster. We're also going to go over the regular season schedule and make picks for every single game in the regular season. Let's start off with the roster. And under center at quarterback, Tony Romo is back for the boys. Last year, he threw for 3,705 yards. Of course, DeMarco Murray was the focal point of that offense, but that allowed Romo to throw 34 touchdowns to just 9 interceptions, one of his best touchdown to interception ratios. So he had a really good year, although he has thrown for more yards in the past. They said there was more of an emphasis on running last year. But Tony Romo should have even bigger numbers, as he's going to have to carry the offense once again like he had to do in the past. But with the loss of DeMarco Murray, the major offseason exodus on this team, well, they'll be doing running back by committee in 2015. And so they have Joseph Randle, Lance Dunbar, Darren McFadden, and Christian Michael. And we'll see which one of these guys stands out, if any. And if any of these guys could stand out, it would be because of the strong offensive line that they have up front. It's one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. But I don't know, with the talent they have at running back, I think they're going to struggle, as they really did not address the running back issue, and they could have drafted somebody, and there was good running backs available to draft, but they passed. I don't know why they did this. I have one idea why, but they didn't get the running back that they needed, and so that's what they have, running back by committee. Although we know that anything by committee usually doesn't work, like closer by committee in baseball, or goalie by committee in hockey. Anyway, so they also have Tyler Klutz at fullback, and then at receiver, you have, of course, Dez Bryant, one of the best receivers in the NFL, definitely a top 5 talent. Then you have Terrence Williams on the other side. They also have Cole Beasley. So they have some talent at receiver, and Romo and the receivers are going to have to carry this team. They also have Jason Witten. Jason Witten's a Hall of Fame tight end, in my opinion. I'm pretty sure he's going to get into the Hall. He is getting up there, but he's still a very talented guy. He's big. He can get the job done, although he is a little bit past his prime at this point in his career. They also have Gavin Escobar, who actually, he looked pretty good last year, I thought. So we'll see how he does this year. He might actually get more looks. As I said, Jason Witten is getting up there. But so on offense, it's an interesting thing. It's a big question as to how this offense is going to perform, especially in the backfield. It's the first time ever a rushing champion has ever left a team through free agency. So we'll see how this works out, but I don't see it working out too good. I think they'll do all right, but I don't think they're going to repeat as division champs and make the playoffs. But we'll see. Although I think Romo will put up big numbers and have a pretty good year, but he'll probably have more turnovers because he's going to be asked to carry too much of the load. The thing that worked out so good for the Cowboys last year was having that balance. That's what you need in an offense. You need to have a balance, and that's what makes everything work to its fullest extent. That's when you get the most success in the air and on the ground, when you have balance. They do not have balance anymore, and so now Romo's going to be put in the spot where he's going to have to do too much, and when that happens, that's going to, that leads to turnovers. When you throw the ball too much, and when the defense knows you're going to have to throw and knows you can't really run the ball, then you're put in a position where it's really tough to win, and it's tough not to have turnovers. But let's look at the defense. The defense actually is not going to be able to really make up for the loss of the running game. See, the thing was, last year with the running game was kind of carrying the defense. It was keeping them off the field. In the first half of the season, the defense looked good. Or actually, in the first half of the season, the defense looked bad. It was in the second half when they finally started to gel. They started to play better. They started looking good. So you wonder, well, which defense are you going to get in 2015? Are they going to pick up where they left off last year? If they do, then the Cowboys could actually win some games and actually have a chance at, making a run for the title again in the division in the NFC East. But if the defense is playing like they were starting off last year, then it's going to be a long year for Dallas. But that question remains to be answered. But let's look at their defensive ends. They have DeMarcus Lawrence, and they also have Jeremy Mincey. Of course, Greg Hardy will be coming in, and Greg Hardy could actually add something to this defense and actually shore up their pass rush and could be a big help and a big plus. Then they have Nick Hayden and Tyrone Crawford at the defensive tackle. Not, like I said, not the best, line up front. They're all right. Like I said, they really could use, Greg Hardy. Lawrence, of course, is a rookie, so we'll see how he does. I think he actually could be pretty good, so he can actually have a pretty good year. Then at linebacker, we have Kyle Wilbur on the strong side, Sean Lee on the weak side, and in the middle, Anthony Hitchens. It's an alright linebacking core, not necessarily the best. We'll see, like I said, if they can pick up where they left off in the second half of last year, then they'll be fine. But in the corners, we have Brandon Carr and Morris Claiborne. And then at safeties, we have J.J. Wilcox as a free safety and Barry Church at strong safety. So, not the best secondary, but if they can pick up where they left off last year, then they'll be decent. Like I said, the defense has a lot of questions, that remain to be answered, and we'll see really how they perform. But I don't think they're going to perform good enough to, like I said, compensate for the loss of DeMarco Murray. Like I said, DeMarco Murray in that run game last year, that was really the best part of their defense. Just the best defense is a good offense that keeps the defense and the other team's offense off the field, and you do that with time of possession and with a running game. But so special teams, you have Chris Jones as the punter, Dan Bailey as the kicker. He's a pretty good kicker, and he's going to get a lot of work at kicker. They'll be kicking a lot of field goals, not being able to punch it in the red zone. Of course, that offensive line, though, could prove me wrong on this. Maybe the offensive line produces an actual 1,000-yard rusher out of one of these four. Who knows? And you never know when the guy's given the opportunity. It's, very real possibility that one of them could all of a sudden turn into a really good running back right before our eyes, especially if the holes are big enough and if they work hard enough. Like I said, at some point everybody has to make their name, and there's no reason one of these guys can't have a breakout season. Darren McFadden was really good in college, but he has yet to shown, that ability to transition his success to the next level here in the NFL. Of course, he was with the Raiders, and they didn't have the line that the Cowboys have, so maybe he will be able to have success behind that line. I wouldn't be shocked if that was to happen, or it could be one of the other guys, but Lance Dunbar will be returning kicks, and Cole Beasley returning punts. So that is the roster. Let's look at the season schedule. Like I said, it's going to be kind of a rough year. It's kind of what happens with Dallas, is they kind of go up and down. At least that's how it's been, over the last few years during the Romo years. But starting off, you got Sunday Night Football, prime time against division rivals, the New York Giants. It's in Dallas, September 13th. That's an 8:30 kickoff. And I believe they start off the season with a win. I think they're going to win against the Giants in Dallas. They're going to start off with a big game. Romo's going to look really good. I wouldn't be surprised to see him throw for over 300, maybe even 350 yards. And he should get a few touchdowns. I'd say at least 3, maybe even more. But I think they win this game, and I don't think they're going to have too much of a problem winning this one. And then in week 2, September 20th, Sunday, it's a 4:25 kickoff, and it's in Philadelphia against division rivals, the Eagles. So they have 2 division rivalry games to start the season, one at home and then on the road here against the Eagles. And I think that Philadelphia wins this one. DeMarco Murray beats the Cowboys and gets a little revenge for the fact that, I don't know if it was so much the Cowboys or if it was so much him or just, a mutual thing, but either way, against his former team, I believe he's going to have a big game, and the Cowboys really won't have a response for that Eagles offense, and they're not going to be able to stop them with their defense, and they're not really going to be able to put up that many points on the Eagles defense. So it's going to be a tough game, and it's going to be a heartbreaker for Cowboys fans. So then week 3, September 27th, Sunday at 1 o'clock. Another home game back in Dallas, this time against the Falcons. First game outside of their division, and I believe they'll beat the Falcons. They're a better team than the Falcons. These two teams are a little more closely matched Especially with the loss of Murray now, they're more on the Falcons level. Of course, I think the Falcons are going to be a little bit better than they were last year, but I think the Cowboys beat them in Dallas. So in Week 4, October 4th, another Sunday night game, their second primetime game of the season. It's America's team. Everybody loves to watch the Cowboys, whether they're good or bad. And so they're going against the Saints in New Orleans. The thing is, if it was in Dallas, I'd pick the Cowboys, but it's in New Orleans, and the Saints play like twice as good, if not more, so at home. That's the thing. The Saints are like a different team in New Orleans than they are on the road, regardless. And I think that actually the Saints and the Cowboys are a pretty evenly matched team. Both teams that have questions on defense, both teams with good quarterbacks. Cowboys got a better offensive line. I think that the Saints, have a better running game. So I think the Saints take this one in New Orleans. Then in Week 5, October 11th, Sunday at 4:25, they're going to be hosting the Patriots in Dallas, and this will be their first home loss of the season as the Patriots go into Cowboy Stadium and beat the Cowboys. Instead, the Cowboys, without the running game, they're going to struggle to beat teams like the Patriots, who are the class of the league. So in Week 6, you have a bye week. Then coming out of the bye week, October 25th, Week 7, Sunday at 4:25, they're going to New York to face the G-Men. So they beat them in Dallas in Week 1, but I think here in New York, the Giants win this game. It's always a tight game when these two teams face off. And like I said, being in New York, I think that's going to make the difference, and the G-Men will win this one. So then Week 8, November 1st, another Sunday game, 4:25 kickoff, back in Dallas as they're going to host the Seahawks. And they just aren't going to have the running game that they had when they beat the Seahawks in Seattle last year when DeMarco Murray was running all over them. This time it's going to be Marshawn Lynch who's going to be running all over the Cowboys. He was putting up some numbers last year, but the Cowboys won't be able to counteract that, and they won't be able to keep the Seahawks offense off the field. And the Seahawks are going to have a better passing game this year too, and they're especially adding Jimmy Graham. So then Week 9, November 8th, back in prime time, their third Sunday night football game, 8:30 kickoff. This one in Dallas against the Eagles. Another division game, second time they'll face the Eagles, and I believe that they actually will beat Philadelphia. This one's in Dallas. It's a division rivalry game. Whenever these two teams face, it's one of the hardest games you'll see all year long. The Eagles and the Cowboys, they really go at it, even though I think, they said the Eagles get them the first time around, but in Dallas, I think this time, even if Murray has a big game, I think the Cowboys will find a way to win in Dallas against the Eagles. They always seem to find a way to beat the Eagles. These two teams usually split. You don't really see teams in the East sweeping each other too often, unless it's the Redskins getting swept by everybody else. But yeah, I think they split the series, and the Cowboys win this one in prime time. This is going to be their biggest victory of the year. It's actually a victory. If they could build on it, maybe they actually get something going after this. But I think in Week 10, November 15th, Sunday at 1 in Tampa Bay, they got to go on the road and play 2 games in Florida. First against the Bucs, like I said, in Tampa Bay. I think the Bucs actually beat them here. I think the Bucs are going to win their division and be a really tough team. But you never know. Maybe the Cowboys build off of that success from beating the Eagles the week before and can build up that. But having to go on the road and go against the Bucs, who are going to be a much tougher team than a lot of people realize, I think they lose this game. So then Week 11, November 27th, 1 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday. They're back in Florida. This time it's in Miami against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are even better than the Bucs. The Dolphins are a team I think is going to be really tough this year, and it's going to be really tough for Dallas to beat them, especially in Miami on the road. Even though last year the Cowboys were 8-0 on the road, but the reason why they were 8-0 on the road was because of their running game, and without that running game, you can't win on the road. That's how you win on the road, is having a running game that just dominates time of possession and keeps the other team's offense off the field. And that keeps your defense fresh, but that's not going to be the case this year. Maybe next year, or maybe they somebody ends up becoming available somehow. Maybe they make a trade. That doesn't happen too often in football during the season, and it would have to happen before the bye week because of the trade deadline, which is much earlier than now in terms of what we're talking about. But week 12, they're back in Dallas, November 26th, 4:30 kickoff. It's a Sunday game, and with this one, actually, no, that's the Thursday, Thanksgiving. My apologies. So Thanksgiving, and that's a classic. The Cowboys always play on Thanksgiving, and they are one of the best teams on Thanksgiving, and they get back in the win column against the Carolina Panthers. So to beat the Panthers on Thanksgiving, then in Week 13, December 7th, they're going to be on Monday Night Football, and this is another primetime game. This is going to be their fourth primetime game of the season. The other three before this are the Sunday nights. Now they're on Monday night, and this is against the Redskins. It's another classic matchup, but the Redskins have not been good for a while now. And even they had that one good year, but even for the last decade, they haven't been very good. They haven't really been that good since Joe Gibbs, but it's in Washington, but I believe the Cowboys can go into Washington and beat the Redskins. They've got more talent than Washington, and I think they win this game. And so that would be 2 in a row. And then Week 14, December 13th, they're going to Green Bay. It's a 4:25 kickoff. And in Lambeau Field against the Packers, it's going to be a long day, and I don't give them much of a chance to win in Lambeau Field, as the Packers are going to be one of the best teams in the NFL this year. I think they'll be the best team in the NFC. And I said, without the running game, you can't go into Lambeau Field with a running back by committee and expect to win. So then Week 15, December 19th, they're back in prime time. This is a Thursday night football game, their final prime time game of the regular season, their fifth time in prime time. And this one, 8:25 kickoff, it's going to be against the Jets in Dallas, and I believe they're going to handle the Jets. They shouldn't have too much of a problem with the Jets. The Jets aren't going to be that good. They do have a good defense, but with Ryan Fitzpatrick at the helm, of course, at this point, who knows who's going to be the quarterback for the Jets in Week 15. But if it's Fitzpatrick, they will have no problem beating him, even regardless of who's behind, center for the Jets. I think the Cowboys win this game. I actually think they end the season with a winning streak, which will give hope for next year. And that's, Week 16, they'll win their second straight game. That's a December 27th game. It's a Sunday at 1 o'clock, and it's in Buffalo against the Bills, against Rex Ryan. The Bills, again, they're a team with a tough defense, but I think the Cowboys can beat them. As the Bills, they have some issues on their offensive side of the ball, so I think it's going to be kind of a low-scoring game, but I think Romo is going to, make the difference. Like I said, Romo's going to have to carry the team this year, and he's going to have a good season. And what's crazy is actually, historically speaking, Romo's always struggled in December, but I think this year he's actually going to finish strong in December. But so Week 17, they win their third game in a row as they sweep the Redskins. This one's in Dallas, January 3rd. The final game of the season is a Sunday at 1 o'clock kickoff. It said hosting the Redskins. I think that they're going to beat them in Week 13 in Washington, and then they won't have much of a problem beating them in Dallas and sweeping the season series. Last year, Washington came in and they beat them, which was crazy that happened. And that's the thing about the NFC East, is no matter how bad any team is, they always play each other really tough. And it's just that those rivalry games, and they're just so familiar with each other, that those are tough games to win. And it's tough to sweep a team in your division. They're the only teams you see twice, and the only teams you could sweep. But I think they actually will sweep the Redskins this year, although they didn't do that last year. But I think they can beat the Redskins twice, and they finish off with a 3-game winning streak. So that will give some hope for next year, something to build on for next year. They finish off 8-8. I don't know if you watched the preview show. I said 9-7. Somehow I had one of the games another way. But and there is some games here where they could win. They could maybe be 9-7, maybe be 10-6. I don't think that's going to be good enough this year to win the NFC East. I think the Eagles win this division. Like I said, I think they end strong, and I even have them winning 5 out of their final 6 games. but I think they start slow. I think they're going to lose 3 out of their first 5 games before the bye, enter the bye 2-3, which seems like it would be manageable, but I think they're going to lose 4 out of 5 in the middle of their schedule. They said they will finish strong, but they're going to be missing DeMarco Murray. You can't lose the wrestling champion and then come back and win the division, a second time in a row. So it's a big loss, and I still think they'll be 500. Maybe they'll be a game or two above 500, but it's going to be kind of a long year. It's going to be a roller coaster ride, some ups and downs. But the future will be bright because all they will really need is to just either draft or a running back or pick up a running back in free agency, make a couple moves to improve that defense a little bit more. They can actually, that defense, if they, if they grow upon that success, if they take that success from the second half of last year and they build upon that, this defense could be a good defense. And we shall see, and maybe, they compete in the East for that division title, but I just don't think they'll be able to keep up with the Eagles. Although I do have them beating the Eagles in Dallas and splitting the season series with the Eagles, but I don't think that's going to be enough. So they have a pretty tough schedule. That's the thing, too. When you win your division, it's always tough to repeat because you got such a tough schedule the next year. So that's what I think. Let me know what you think. What do you think about their roster and the lack of picking up a star running back to replace the running back they lost in the running back by committee situation? What do you think about Romo and the year he's going to have? Also, what do you think about their schedule? And what do you think about the picks? Where do you have the Cowboys going? How do you have them finishing? Do you have them making the playoffs? I don't. But hey, you never know. This is the NFL. Anything can happen. That's why they play the games. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and have a great weekend. And enjoy all the sports.